This episode is brought to you by Marvel Studios' Captain America: Brave New World, starring Anthony Mackie as Captain America and Harrison Ford as President Ross. Don't miss the explosive return of Captain America as Sam Wilson uncovers a mysterious plot that threatens to destabilize the globe and confront an enemy that has the entire world seeing red. Enter a Brave New World in IMAX and 3D this Friday. Get tickets now.
This is the Michael K. Show podcast.
I gotta get more K.
Listen live weekdays at 1 on 880 ESPN, the ESPN New York app, and your smart speaker.
And a good afternoon, everybody. This is indeed the Michael K. Show. We thank you for joining us on this Tuesday, February 11, 2025. It's me and you against the world. You're the co-host. You know the number. In order to get your co-hosting spot, 1-800-919-3776. We have a big show. Sal Paolantonio, who was embedded with the Eagles all weekend, will give us the final Super Bowl wrap-up at 1:30. At 2 p.m., following his press conference down in Tampa, Aaron Boone's going to join us and break down what he expects from each position and for his team in the upcoming 2025 season. So a lot to do as baseball now comes front and center. Pitchers and catchers report for the Yankees today. They started coming in for the Mets yesterday. So it's a good way to start off the show with football in the rearview mirror and baseball clearly in the windshield. What is the deal with both of the New York teams? Well, let's take a look at the Mets first. The Mets, I believe, are better than the team that went to Game 6 of the NLCS last year. Does that get them that far and further this year? Only time will tell. There's questions on the Mets, but getting Juan Soto and then bringing back Pete Alonso, there's no way that you could say that this team is not better offensively. You essentially replaced Starling Marte with Juan Soto. Juan Soto had 41 home runs last year. Juan Soto is a generational type of hitter. He does great things for the Mets. He will do great things for the Mets. It was an important signing for them, and they did it. And I think they got better because of it. You've got a second year of Mark Vientos. You've got Pete Alonso with a little something to prove. Maybe there's a little less pressure after going through free agency for the first time. And then he knows if he opts out of this year's contract, which he will, that he does not have the albatross of the qualifying offer in him, which means that other teams will not have to worry about giving up a draft pick. And I think that that's a big thing. And I also think that's a big thing that the Players Union is going to have to get rid of because it really does slow down free agency, especially when you put in codicils the way Scott Boras wants to of opting out. So if Pete Alonso signed a 4-year deal with the Blue Jays and then opt out after year one, the Blue Jays don't want to give up a draft pick for 1 year of a player. They'll give up a draft pick for 4 years of a player, but not for one. Anyway, we digress. So I like the Met lineup. Carlos Mendoza, who we're going to have on a little bit later on this week. He's the Met manager. He certainly showed that he could lead a team to great things as they made a strong comeback in the second half last year and got into the postseason. And then they did damage in the postseason. And as I said, came to within a couple of wins of going to the World Series. So this is a better offense. Now, what concerns me about the Mets? Their starting pitching concerns me. You know, Kodai Senga is a really, really good pitcher when he's healthy. Is he going to be healthy? And the Mets going to have the 6-man rotation in order to try to keep him healthy. He wasn't healthy last year. That's a big deal. You've lost Luis Severino. You're asking Clay Holmes to become a starter. He's got the good stuff. He's got a great makeup. Can he become a starter? Frankie Montas? Big question mark. Sean Manaea had a great year, ran out of gas in the last game against the Dodgers. If he could recreate what he did last year, that's a strong number 2. Peterson lived up to his first-round status and actually had a very good year. But there's no dynamic, big-time starter in that starting rotation. It could be Senga, but is he going to stay healthy? And can you be a dynamic, big-time starter in a 6-man rotation? Because in a 6-man rotation, you're not going to get 32 starts. You're probably going to get about 28, 27 starts. So I don't think the Mets have the depth in the starting rotation, and their bullpen is also questionable. You have Edwin Diaz, which is very good. But leading up to Edwin Diaz, what do you have? that makes you feel great. So I think the Mets are a good team. I think the Mets should make the playoffs. But in terms of being a dynamic, overwhelming team, I'm not sure. I think they drastically improved their offense, and the pitching is a question mark. But the reason why I will not go crazy about this is because if David Stearns has a strength, and he has many strengths as a GM, he knows how to patch together a rotation. He could have gone for long-term answers for that ace starter. He could have. He could have gone after Corbin Burns. He could have gone after Blake Snell. He could have gone after Max Fried. There are players out there he could have gone after, but you know what? He does not believe in giving long-term contracts to pitchers. And that's fine, as long as it works out. So what he patched together last year was good enough. And he's also really good at patching together a bullpen. So I'm not going to cast total doubt on the rotation and the bullpen. I'm just saying, looking at it, it's a concern of mine. The offense is not a concern of mine. It'll be interesting to see how they line it up, in what order they're going to come up. I think you have to have Lindor as the number one hitter, because when they moved him to the leadoff spot, he became a different player. He was absolutely a force. And then whichever way you want to play with Soto and Alonso and Vientos, that's going to be your choice. Soto had always preferred to bat in the number 3 spot, but last year the Yankees had him in the number 2 spot, and he had his best year ever. But he also had Aaron Judge hitting behind him. So that's a little bit of a decision that Mendoza has to make. Does he want Soto 3rd, Alonso 4th, move somebody up to 2, somebody else up to 2? There's a lot of maneuverability there for Carlos Mendoza, how he wants to lay out this lineup. It's going to be intriguing and fun to watch how he does it. So, are the Mets better than last year? I don't know how you say they're not. When you add Juan Soto, even if you didn't do anything else, how are they not better than last year? Of course they're better than last year. But remember one other thing. They snuck into the playoffs last year. And they had to make a spirited run down the stretch. And then they got really hot in the postseason. The Alonso home run in Game 3 against Milwaukee, and then they knock off the Phillies, and then they go to 6 games against the Dodgers. But against the Dodgers, you could see how they were a little short with pitching. And then when Manaea ran out of gas and he was absolutely exhausted in that last game, they ended up losing. But you can't knock their season. No one expected them to go that far. But when you sign Soto, you expect to go further. And the thing that stands in the way for the Mets is you got a Philly team that added Luzardo. You got a Braves team that's going to get back Strider, who hardly pitched, and Acuna, who hardly played last year. They'll both probably come back in May. They lost Max Fried. They lost Charlie Morton. But a lot of people expect good things from the Braves. So there's 2 teams right there in the East. I think that the Nationals are going to be better, maybe approaching a 500 team. And the Marlins are going to be dreadful. Marlins did nothing. They subtracted. They did not add. They're an awful team. Awful. You got the Central Division where, if you look at all the projections, a lot of people are expecting great things from the Cubs. And the Cubs still could sign Alex Bregman. Otherwise, they'll go with a rookie at third base. Milwaukee's going to be good, as it always is. And don't discount the Cincinnati Reds with Terry Francona at the helm. But I don't think that you're going to get a wild card out of the Central. I don't know which of those teams going to win. I say the Cubs will win the Central. I don't think any other team will get enough wins in order to get to a wild card. And then you got a loaded National League West. The Dodgers are projected at 103.5 wins, over under. Amazing, right? Got the Dodgers. You got an improved Giants team. You got the Diamondbacks, who won 89 games last year and just missed the playoffs on the last game. And you got the Padres. So the Dodgers are going to win that division, but is one of the wild cards going to come out of that division? Are 2 going to come out of that division? That's the big question. So if 2 come out of the West, that means 1's going to come out of the East. And is that 1 going to be either the Phillies, the Braves, or the Mets? and one of those teams is going to win the division. That's some of what the Mets are up against. But if anybody's trying to tell you or sell you that the Mets are not a better team than last year, don't buy it. Of course they're better. They added one of the best players in baseball. How could they not be better? Of course they're better. Let's move on to the Yankees. Now, under that thinking, you'd say, well, you can't say the Yankees are better because they lost one of the best players in baseball. But I think they got creative, and I think that they are better. And I'll tell you why. They got better defensively. Wherever they put Bellinger, and I believe that they should put Bellinger in left, not in center, and I'll tell Aaron Boone that at 2 o'clock. Wherever they put him, he's going to be better than what they had last year. Because the only knock on Soto, he's not a good defender. There's no other way to put it. He's not a good defender. In fact, he struggles. It's going to be interesting to see him play right field at Citi Field with all the nooks and crannies. He's not a good defender. Met fans will find that out. He's not a great base runner. He's an unbelievable hitter. So you subtract Verdugo, you add Dominguez, who turned 22 the other day, and you add Bellinger. So your outfield now is Judge moving from center to right. Judge was not metrically a good center fielder last year. He's a very good right fielder, much better than Soto. If you put Bellinger in center or Dominguez in center, you've improved over last year. And whoever you put in left, if you put Bellinger in left, you've improved, I believe, over Verdugo, who was a really good outfielder. Now, if you put Dominguez in left, you haven't improved in left. Sorry, you haven't. All right, let's move to the infield. Goldschmidt, at this stage, even at 37, is a better defender than what Anthony Rizzo became. Jazz Chisholm is a better defender than Gleyber Torres. Anthony Volpe is a very good shortstop. He'll be a very good shortstop again. Third base is a huge black hole for the Yankees. I don't know what they're doing there. If they really intend to fill third base with the three guys that are right now on their radar, I think that would be a negative on the team. Austin Wells has turned out to be a good defender. They have to find a backup catcher. And pitching-wise, you've added Max Fried. And the Yankees hope that they have Garrett Cole for a full season. So Garrett Cole and Max Fried 1-2. Carlos Rodon, if he can recreate what he did in the first half last year, is a real good number 3. Luis Gil is the reigning Rookie of the Year. And Clark Schmidt, they hope that for the full year, and they probably think that he could take a next step as well. And their bullpen is much better than it was last year. In the second half of last year, they didn't have a closer. Their closer was Clay Holmes, and he lost his job. Luke Weaver did a good job filling in, but now Luke Weaver could play the role of Mariano Rivera in 1996. Give you 2 innings, leading up to Devin Williams, whom MLB Network said is the best closer in baseball. You got Devin Williams. How's your bullpen not better? And probably in May, you're going to get back Jonathan Loaisiga. Maybe even a little sooner. Cruz, who they picked up in the deal with the Reds for Trevino, a strikeout machine. Now he also has to throw strikes and not walk people, but he averages about 13 strikeouts per 9 innings. You're going to have Mark Leiter a full season. Maybe he pitches the way he did in the postseason, and he gets a lot of strikeouts. Cousins. You bring back Hill. They just signed Matzik to a minor league contract. The Yankee bullpen is absolutely loaded. Show me a better bullpen. Maybe the Dodgers, but the Yankee bullpen is outstanding. So when you put that all together, yeah, they lost Juan Soto, but I actually think they're a better team. They tightened up the defense, which certainly reared its ugly head in the postseason, especially in the World Series. And yeah, they're going to lose offense, but I think that they've added enough offense. Remember, first base for the last 3 or 4 years for the Yankees has been an absolute black hole. They never got from Anthony Rizzo what they thought they were going to get. Never. After he got hurt against San Diego when he ran into Tatis Jr., it was over. He never really recovered. He was not the first baseman that we thought he was going to be. Just wasn't. So, you're going to improve defensively. I think that even at his advanced age, Goldschmidt's going to give you more offensively than Rizzo did. Full season of Chisholm, who's a good second baseman. I like what the Yankees did. I mean, they could have been demoralized losing Soto. because don't listen to any of the nonsense. Well, the Yankees were okay with losing Soto. Stop it. You know how far beyond their comfortability level they went to try to get Soto? They wanted Soto back desperately. And people are going to try to tell you who want to put lipstick on a pig. Well, if they got Soto, they wouldn't have been able to make those other moves. Yeah, they wouldn't have been because they didn't want a $300 million payroll. But they would have put together a really good team. But rather than bury their head in disappointment after losing Soto to the crosstown rivals, you know what they did? They pivoted quickly, and they made the trade for Bellinger, and they made the trade for Devin Williams, and they signed Goldschmidt, and they signed Max Fried. It was a great pivot. And right now, I think the Yankees are the best team in the American League. So the route to the World Series, to me, seems pretty clear. And you could stub your toe, obviously, anywhere in the postseason. Anywhere. But when you look in the American League East, Orioles are good. They're good. But they lost Corbin Burns, and they added veteran starter. They added Charlie Morton and the veteran pitcher from Japan. They're going to get back Bautista as their closer after Tommy John surgery. But I don't think they added enough. They also lost Santander. So I think the Orioles are still behind the Yankees. The Red Sox, offensively, they're not quite there yet. They did a good job adding Garrett Crochet, but they're not there. They're not there offensively yet. Blue Jays are intriguing, but I don't think they're good enough. Tampa Bay is intriguing. I don't think they're good enough. So I think the Yankees are the best team in the East. They're better than any of the teams in the Central. They prove that every single year. And the Astros are a different looking team than ever before. I think they probably still can win the West, but the Rangers are going to be better. They have Jacob deGrom back in their rotation. They have Rocker. They could bring up Leiter. They've got some pieces. I think the Angels are going to be better if they could keep Mike Trout healthy and they just signed Kenley Jansen to be their closer. But you look at all those teams. Seattle doesn't hit enough, so I don't think that Seattle's going to win that division. Yankees are the best team in the American League. They just are. Prove me wrong. Make me think otherwise. 1-800-919-3776. Let's go to the phones. All right, before we get to Sal at 1:30 and back up to Boone at 2 o'clock, we'll also have Rich Cimini to talk about where the Jets go after moving on from Aaron Rodgers. Why don't we go to Kevin and Hapog as he leads it off. Kevin?
Hey, Michael, first time, long time, huge fan. Great to call in.
Thank you.
I'm actually not going to prove you wrong. I'm going to prove you more than right. So Goldschmidt's a lift over Rizzo. Chisholm's better than Torres out of the gate. Bellinger's better than Verdugo was out of the gate. Overall, the defense has improved. You're getting the same from third base that you got to start out last year. Huge difference, though, with Fried over the other starter, Stroman. And then, obviously, the closer improvement is massive. I mean, 12 blown saves from Holmes was a huge thing to surmount for the Yankees last year. And I think at the end of the day, similar to the Mets with the starting rotation, if they're in it to win it at the deadline, they'll get a third baseman if they don't get one before the season starts. And the Mets will probably get a starter somewhere along the line this season. But I think the Yankees, really good pivot away from what happened with Soto. And there's no doubt that they're going to be better overall. It's just a question of the delta between Soto and Dominguez. Dominguez really is a huge wild card, and I think, the spring's really going to tell a lot about what we're going to see from the Martian this year.
It's funny you said that, Kevin, and I thank you for the phone call. I believe that Dominguez is the most important player on the Yankees. Because if Dominguez is not going to do it, if he's not going to show, then your only pivot is not a satisfactory pivot. It's just not. They don't have a bench with outfielders on it. They don't. So it's Dominguez or nothing. I'm sorry. They have nowhere to turn if it's not Dominguez. They would have to make a trade. They might have to revisit signing Verdugo again. That's how important this is. Trent Grisham is not the answer if Dominguez doesn't hit. And one other aspect that the Yankees have to solve. Dominguez has to be able to hit right-handed. He can't be a black hole right-handed. He just can't. That's been a problem. Now, the Yankees are fortunate that there are fewer lefty starters. I think there's only 2 left-handed starters in the American League East. Shane McClanahan and Garrett Crochet. That's it. But they do struggle against some lefties, and that's going to be an issue. That's going to be an issue. And then, a lefty starter or a lefty reliever also neutralizes some of their left-handed bats. Thank goodness for Judge. He punishes lefties. Let's go to Bobby in Belmore. Bobby.
Hi, Mike. Good afternoon. I agree they are the best team. You forgot about Tucker not being on the Astros in the American League. But I'm just going to look at the postseason, just the postseason. Bellinger's a .211 postseason hitter. Free's got over 5 ERA in the postseason. Got bombed in the playoffs last year. Has arm issues the last couple of years. And the last time I like Holmes in the 8th and Weaver in the 9th. They were very good in the postseason, Mike. Well, last time I saw Williams, he gave up that home run to Alonso. I'm sorry. So I'm not, I think they have a great shot getting back to the World Series, but I'm not so confident as other people looking at these guys' postseason record. Plus, you have Judge hasn't hit well.
But I mean, you're zeroing in on Fried's failures. Also, he also helped the Braves win a World Series.
Exactly. He was fantastic in that game. I'm sorry, I forgot to mention that was 2021. But since then, I've looked at the numbers. He's been bad, Mike, in the postseason. So, and he's had arm issues the last couple of years. So,
well, I would think, Bobby, that they certainly did their due diligence with the physical, and they didn't sign a guy that they felt was going to be hurt. So we'll see. If he gets hurt again, then that is a problem. But, when you keep quoting me, guys that struggled in the postseason. Well, Alex Rodriguez struggled in the postseason until 2009 when he actually carried the Yankees to a World Series championship, almost by his lonesome. So things can turn, and I know somebody's going to call in. Judge was terrible in the postseason. But, he had a home run and a double, 2 walks in Game 5. If there was Game 6, I think he had found his stride. He also had the big home run off Clase. So he did some damage, although he did struggle more than you want him to struggle, especially after another big season. That's something that he has to solve. Let's go to John in North Bergen. John.
Hi, Mike. Thank you, guys. I appreciate you taking my call.
You got it.
Thanks, man. You're my man. I love you guys. I love listening to you.
Thank you.
But wait, you're Mr. Yankee. With us losing Soto, the Bronx is hitters friendly park. Do you really believe Soto's gonna put up the same numbers at Queens? I don't think so. Do you?
Well, I think he's going to be great. I mean, whether he puts up the same numbers, John, that remains to be seen. He doesn't have the same protection in the lineup. So Pete Alonso could hit you home runs, but he is not the same danger that Aaron Judge is. So I think he's going to walk an awful lot. He might walk 140 times because teams are going to take their chance pitching to Alonso. They didn't really want to take their chance all that much pitching to Judge, and still he had an incredibly high on-base percentage. So even if he doesn't have 41 home runs, please, even if you're a Yankee fan, and I understand you're not in love with Juan Soto anymore, he's going to be great with the Mets because he's a great player. He's a great hitter. Will the numbers be the same? Will they be as potent? I don't know. Is Lindor going to get off to a bad start again? If he doesn't, that helps Soto. There's going to be someone on even base all the time. That's a key. Is Alonso going to hit 50 home runs or he's going to have 35? That's a key. So all of those things play a role in this. Let's go to Jonathan upstate. What's up, John?
Hey, Michael, how's it going, man?
Good. How about you?
I cannot complain. I just want to say I've been a long-time listener since I was a teenager. I love you, man. I'm just so happy to even be opportunity to be talking to you.
Thanks, man.
Appreciate it. But what I did want to say was I do think that the Yankees are the best team in the American League. I agree with you. I've been watching my whole life, and losing Soto was a big loss for us, and it hurt me. But after getting Devin Williams and getting Fried and all of the moves we made, I've watched my whole life, and the Yankees have all of this hitting, and they hit all these home runs, and when it comes to the playoffs, we lose to dominant pitching. No, we didn't lose to dominant pitching last year, but overall, I've seen that good pitching, starting rotation, having 2 and 3 aces helps you win. I love what they did. I love how they bounced back, and I do think we're the team to beat this year.
I love what you're saying. I feel that way, too. I feel that way, too. I think it's going to be an exciting summer. I think both the Yankees and the Mets are going to be really, really good and really fun teams. How great is that? We don't have it in football. The 2 football teams stink. We don't have it in basketball. Only one basketball team's good. The other one's terrible. We've got really interesting teams in hockey. But it's going to be a great summer, everybody. If you're a Met fan, you should be excited. You got Juan Soto. And if you're a Yankee fan, you're the best team in that league. You should be excited. And I'll tell you what, the games between the Yankees and the Mets, they're going to be just unbelievable. Unbelievable drama. When the Mets come to Yankee Stadium in May, can you imagine the greeting that Juan Soto's going to get? News out of Tampa as Aaron Boone is talking with the media. Jake Cousins has a forearm strain. A few weeks into a no-throw, so he probably will not be ready for the start of the season. It already begins. That's why, picking early is ridiculous. Clayton Beater, who's supposed to be part of the bullpen, has a shoulder issue, so he's a little behind in his build-up as well. So right out of the gate, bing, bang, bang, you see things happen. All right, we're going to get the final wrap-up on the Eagles and the Super Bowl, and we'll talk to our good friend Sal Paolantonio in a moment. Then Rich Cimini is going to join us later in the hour. And then at 2 o'clock, the manager of the New York Yankees, Aaron Boone. We'll go back and forth with what I think are some concerns with the team and how he feels the team is moving forward. It's going to be a great show. We thank you so much for joining us. It's going to be fun as we lead you into Don Hahn and Rosenberg at 3. So stick around right here on 880 ESPN.
Every idea starts with a problem. Warby Parker's was simple. Glasses are too expensive. So they set out to change that. By designing glasses in-house and selling directly to customers, they're able to offer prescription eyewear that's expertly crafted and unexpectedly affordable. Warby Parker glasses are made from premium materials like impact-resistant polycarbonate and custom acetate. And they start at just $95, including prescription lenses. Get glasses made from the good stuff. Stop by a Warby Parker store near you.
As the number and severity of third-party breaches continue to rise, companies are increasingly vigilant, not just about how they handle their own data, but how their vendors do as well. For security and compliance leaders, this means more security reviews are coming across your desk every day, and valuable time is being wasted on manual security reviews. With Vanta Questionnaire Automation, security and compliance teams can complete security reviews up to 5 times faster, giving you time back to focus on running your security and compliance programs. Over 8,000 global companies like ZoomInfo, Smart Recruiters, and Noibu use Vanta to save time on security reviews. Visit vanta.com/podcast to learn more about questionnaire automation. That's VANTA.com/podcast.
Get in zone, AutoZone. Welcome to AutoZone. What are you working on today?
I think my battery's dead. With free battery testing and charging, we can help you get back on the road.
Get in zone, AutoZone.
So what if I need a new one?
We have the right Duralast battery for you, only at AutoZone. Get in zone, AutoZone.
And what about my old battery?
We can recycle it right here at America's #1 battery destination. Get in zone, AutoZone. Restrictions apply.
Thanks for listening to the Michael K. Show podcast.
He's been here a long time, and he's going to be here even longer.
Catch the show on demand whenever you want. Just subscribe to us wherever you get your podcasts.
We're going to play wordplay here.
My dog.
Okay, C.J. Gardner-Johnson, what is he?
Dog.
Jalen Carter.
Dog.
Cooper DeJean.
Dog.
Quinyon Mitchell.
Dog.
Defense full of dogs. You're the top dog.
Dog. Dog.
And now you're a Super Bowl champion, man.
Super Bowl champ. This is unbelievable.
That was our very own Sal Pao, Zach Bond, after the Super Bowl victory for the Eagles, a convincing one at that, 40-22. And you know that Sal was with the Eagles all year, and he was embedded with them at New Orleans as well. And for a final post-mortem on the Super Bowl champion Eagles, we bring in our good friend Sal Paolantonio from ESPN. Sal, how you doing? Are you tired?
No, Michael, I'm not. I'm energized. I always get energized after a Super Bowl because, it takes a lot of energy, and it'll take some time to come down from it. But, there's a parade, and there are book offers and magazine articles to write. There's a lot of people who want to know what happened from Brazil to a Super Bowl title, from Sao Paulo to New Orleans. So it's an exciting time to be a reporter covering this team and being in this town. There's no question about it. I really enjoy it. I do.
It's so funny that you brought up a book because I was thinking, I knew we were going to have you on the air today. I said, I mean, if I was a book publisher, I'd call up Sal Pal. Nobody knows this team like Sal. So, I mean, that's a possibility? That's
already happened. So, I wrote Philly Special, the
Right.
inside story of how the Eagles won their first Super Bowl title. And, that was a grind. I had to produce that thing in 45 days. And as you know, as somebody who's been in the business, that's not an easy thing to do, 90,000 words in 45 days. So we are talking to different publishers about different ideas, and I'm excited to do a book about it. When you cover a story like this and you see a result like this, obviously there's demand for it, but more important as a writer and reporter, there's a lot to say that you weren't able to say on television. There's a lot to report. There are a lot of stories to tell, and that's what I do. And I'm a writer. I write stuff.
And you do it very well. Now, 40-22. Any team comes into the Super Bowl, Sal, obviously they feel good. They feel that they've got the plan to stop the other team. But in their wildest dreams, and maybe it's true, maybe they felt this way, did the Eagles think that they were going to be this dominant over a two-time defending champion?
No, not this dominant. The way you put the question, and, that's an easy answer, no. But they were very confident. As I talked to you during Super Bowl week, and I do believe I called the Eagles would win the game, but I didn't think they would win this lopsided fashion, is I knew that Vic Fangio was going to copy Todd Bowles' defense against Patrick Mahomes II when they beat Mahomes when Brady was the quarterback of the Bucs and Bruce Arians was the head coach and Todd Bowles was the defensive coordinator. Rush 4, cover with 7, frustrate Mahomes, get after him, try to get home with 4 pass rushers. Matter of fact, about second quarter of the game, I texted Todd Bowles home in Tampa, and I said, well, looks like Vic Fangio copied your defense. And I got 3 letters back. Yep. Y-E-P. Yep.
Now, you can copy a defense, but you've got to have the talent to make it pay off. I mean, for them to get the pressure on him and never blitz, Sal, that was unbelievable.
Yeah, but that's the formula if you're going to stop Patrick Mahomes II is you got to be able to get home with 4. And the talent was there. Josh Sweat, certainly Jalen Carter, the most double-team defensive tackle in the National Football League. He's next Warren Sapp, in my view. He's that good. Dominating the middle, opening things up for Milton Williams, 2 sacks. Josh Sweat, 2.5 sacks. They got pressure. But also, I thought the game plan that Andy Reid had offensively played right into it. Where was the play-action pass? Where were the draws? Where were the bubble screens? That there really wasn't much creativity as a counterpunch to what the Eagles were doing. They were sort of sleepwalking into it in the second quarter and the third quarter. And I didn't really think that Andy Reid had an answer to what Vic Fangio was throwing at him. At one point, Michael, you've seen it. It's a replay we've seen probably 6 times now. Josh Sweat's being blocked by Travis Kelce with help from Isaiah Pacheco.
Mm-hmm.
That's very reminiscent of Kyle Shanahan using a his second tight end to block Hassan Reddick in the NFC Championship game. Reddick breaks free and breaks Brock Purdy's right arm. So I thought the blocking scheme was terrible. I thought the creativity was not there. Where was the counterpunch after the Chiefs got punched?
And it's also interesting, Sal. I mean, if you want the formula for beating quarterbacks that are great, the Giants did the same thing against Tom Brady. Just put pressure up the middle, and if you don't blitz, that's how you stop great quarterbacks. And I was just shocked. I don't know if you were. I've never seen Mahomes look that bad. Even when they lost to Tampa Bay, I don't think he looked as bad as he did on Sunday. Would you agree?
Yeah, and I would say it's because his coach didn't give him an answer.
Mm-hmm.
So if Reed and Matt Nagy know what happened in the Super Bowl against the Bucs, they've seen it. They know what Spagnuolo did to Tom Brady and Belichick in the Super Bowl. They know what other teams have done to Patrick Mahomes. They saw what Jim Johnson, the Eagles defensive coordinator, did in the 2004 championship game against Michael Vick when Michael Vick was with Atlanta. Rush up the middle, then close off the escape routes. But this is Patrick Mahomes II, and he's always been able to get out of harm's way. He's always been able to leak out. But when I talked to Fangio during Super Bowl week, he was very specific to me. He said, we're not going to be very complicated. We're going to rush 4, drop 7. We're going to spy. They spied him. They used Zach Bond as a spy. That interview I did with Zach Bond, people are saying, well, Jalen Hurts shouldn't have been the MVP. I disagree with that, by the way. I think he should have been the MVP, and it should have been Cooper DeJean. But what about Zach Bond? He led the team in tackles. He had an interception. He had 1 pressure on Patrick Mahomes II and 1 pass defense. He shows up in every single part of the defensive box score. He could have easily been the MVP over Cooper DeJean and Jalen Hurts. But Hurts led the team in passing and rushing, just like he did in Super Bowl 57. If you do that and account for 3 touchdowns, you're the MVP, Michael.
Now, is there anything that you see? Anything could happen during a season. We can't predict injuries, and you hope they don't happen. But is there anything that you can envision that would stop this Eagles team from going back to the Super Bowl next year?
I was making some notes before I came on your show. This is the greatest Eagles team of all time, and I've covered this team for 34 years and written 2 books about them. This is the greatest Eagles team of all time. This is the greatest closeout win in Philadelphia history. Better than the 68 Sixers, 74 Flyers, 83 Sixers. Better than the Phillies was the Royals in 80 and of course the Rays. This Eagles team beat probably 4 Hall of Famers: Chris Jones, Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes, and Travis Kelce. 4 Hall of Famers. So I think this is the best Eagles team of all time. And the way it's put together now can stay together with a couple of exceptions. Milton Williams is a free agent. He had 2 sacks. They'll struggle to keep him because they have to pay 2 other defensive tackles on their squad, Jordan Davis and Jalen Carter, at some point. They have to pay Zach Bond, and they have to keep him. He's the guy who definitely keeps it all together. And linebackers are not, atmospheric in terms of their compensation. So they got to pay him. And they got to pay Nick Sirianni, which they will do. And I talked to Jeffrey Lurie after the Super Bowl on the field. He said Nick's going to be with us for a long, long time. But, there's a number there, and he just added a 0. So you look at the NFC. You look at the NFC, right, Michael? I mean, the Vikings probably going to J.J. McCarthy now. The Rams are in upheaval at the quarterback and wide receiver position. Who's going to challenge them? I mean,
maybe the Lions?
I don't. Lions could come back. Washington will be there. But, they dismantled Washington.
Mm-hmm.
So, I think you're right. I think the odds makers say they're the odds-on favorite to go back to the Super Bowl. But the question is, will Mahomes and Reed go back? That's the big question. Because when you look at Baltimore, when they went to Buffalo, they had 11 turnovers all year long, and they had 3 against Buffalo in that game. They don't turn the ball over, and, oh, by the way, gave it to Derrick Henry more than 16 times. They probably beat Buffalo. They probably go to Kansas City and beat Kansas City. I think Baltimore is the team to watch in the AFC next year.
Well, I'll tell you what, Sal, you did unbelievable work, but that's no secret. You do it all the time. When this book comes out, I want to see it. I want to read it. I want to have you on, and I'm sure I will talk to you sometime in Tampa when the Yankees are getting ready for their season.
I'm totally looking forward to it. Thanks for the opportunity to be on your show, Michael. You're the best.
Course. Thank you so much, my friend. That is Sal Paolantonio. Look for that book. If there's a book company out there, I'm sure there are, that's the book that's the guy that you want to write the book on the 2024-2025 Philadelphia Eagles, the Super Bowl champion Eagles. So if you're a Giant fan, you can't feel too good about what he's saying. You can't. How could you? And then you got the Commanders there. Dallas is going to be better, and the Giants don't have a quarterback. And there's rumors about them, maybe making a move for Matthew Stafford. So you're going to bring in an old quarterback. How'd that work for the team across town? Now, the team across town is not bringing back that old quarterback again, according to reports. We'll have Rich Cimini on to talk about that in just a moment. Hey, Game Time brought to you by Tullamore Dew Irish Whiskey, because when it's game time, it's Tully time. At 7:30, Knicks are in Indiana to battle the Pacers. Pre-game coverage begins at 7 p.m. right here on 880 ESPN. Can they bounce back from that awful loss against the Celtics? And on ESPN TV, beginning at 7 p.m., it's a men's college basketball doubleheader. Number 5, Tennessee against number 15, Kentucky, followed by number 2, Alabama against Texas. Tullamore Dew, the original triple distilled, triple blended, triple cast matured Irish whiskey. Be sure to grab a Tullamore Dew. Try the new Tullamore Dew Honey during today's action. Glasses up to enjoying Tullamore Dew responsibly. Rich Cimini joins us in just a moment. Then at 2 o'clock straight up, we'll talk to Yankee manager Aaron Boone. Hey, March is almost here, and college basketball is reaching its most exciting stretch of the season. Right now, new customers on FanDuel get $150 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. That's $150 extra bucks to bet on everything from conference clashes to tournament upsets, and even who's cutting down the nets. Now, if you've been waiting to join FanDuel, really there's no better time. The app is easy to use, and when you win, you'll get paid instantly. So visit FanDuel.com/K and get in on the college hoops action before March takes over. 21 plus, physically present in New York, first online real money wager only. $5 first deposit required. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets, which expire 7 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. For help with a gambling problem, call 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY, that's 467-369.
When you need mealtime inspiration, it's worth shopping Smith's for thousands of appetizing ingredients that inspire countless mouth-watering meals. And no matter what tasty choice you make, you'll enjoy our everyday low prices. Plus, extra ways to save, like digital coupons worth over $600 each week and up to $1 off per gallon at the pump with points. So you can get big flavors and big savings. Smith's, fresh for everyone. Fuel restrictions apply.
This episode is brought to you by Nerds Gummy Clusters, the sweet treat that always elevates the vibe. With a sweet gummy surrounded with tangy, crunchy nerds, every bite of Nerds Gummy Clusters brings you a whole new world of flavor. Whether it's game night, on the way to a concert, or kicking back with your crew, unleash your senses with Nerds Gummy Clusters.
You know what's smart? Enjoying a fresh gourmet meal at home that you didn't have to cook. Meet Factor, your loophole in the laws of mealtime. Chef-crafted meals delivered with a tap, ready in just 2 minutes. You know what's even smarter? Treating yourself without cheating your goals. Factor is dietitian approved, chef prepared, and you plated. Pretty smart, huh? Refresh your routine and eat smart with Factor. Learn more at factormeals.com.
Thanks for listening to the Michael K. Show podcast.
He's been here a long time, and he's going to be here even longer.
Catch the show on demand whenever you want. Just subscribe to us wherever you get your podcasts.
So, Jay Glazer on Sunday, the NFL insider for Fox, said that Aaron Rodgers flew to Florham Park, met with the Jets, and they decided they were going to part ways. The Jets, according to Glazer, said that, he wasn't going to be coming back. And I think it sounded more like the Jets' decision than Aaron Rodgers. But when I need clarity on something like this, I bring in our guy, Rich Cimini, who's covered the Jets forever. Rich, how you doing?
Hey, Michael, how you doing? Thanks for having me today.
Of course. Do you think the Jets told them we don't want you, or did Aaron Rodgers say, I don't want to come back under these circumstances?
I think when this becomes official, it will be presented as a mutual parting. Toward the end of the year, and as things kind of disintegrated, for the Jets as the year went on, I always got the sense that Rodgers didn't want to come back. I just thought that he had seen enough here with the operation and the way things worked that he probably want to look to move on anyway. Now, he said the right things publicly, that the Jets would be his first choice, and so I think it would be presented as a mutual parting. I really never thought he was going to come back. Once the Jets hired Aaron Glenn, I just felt really confident that this was probably going to be the way they would go. And maybe that would apply to any regime. Most regimes want to start fresh at the key positions, especially quarterback. And so this is not a surprise at all and we're just waiting for the Jets to make this official.
Why fly him 3,000 miles when you could have said that on the phone?
Yeah, that was curious for sure. Now, that wasn't their first conversation, I was told. It wasn't like, hey, Aaron, come to New Jersey. You know, he lands, he walks in the office. Sorry, we're letting you go. They had multiple conversations. From the moment Aaron Glenn got hired, they had been in communication with Rodgers and his camp to try to talk through this. So I think that was the final conversation. And again, that could have been done by phone, but look, Rodgers has a house in New Jersey. So it's quite possible he was coming back to check on his home anyway. So I don't know the full story there. I would agree that, the perception is that that's a long way to go to be told you're getting fired. It's almost like the Jets and the Willie Randolph situation from many years ago, flying him out to the West Coast. But I don't think that was the case in the Jets' mind. I think they felt that it was like another conversation in a series of conversations.
So Diana Rossini of The Athletic reporting today that, Aaron Glenn said, if you come back, you have to come to every single function we have, every, non-mandatory and mandatory preseason thing, and we don't want you on Pat McAfee. Does that sound like something Aaron Glenn would say?
Yeah, I've been hearing that throughout the process as well. Aaron Glenn is, and you know this, Michael, and I think most of the listeners know, he's a Bill Parcells guy. And, Parcells, what's his motto? And I could still hear these words from many years ago. It's a one-voice organization. And he was the voice, Parcells, and now Aaron Glenn is going to be the voice. And I never thought for a second that he would be okay with Rodgers going on McAfee every Tuesday to give his state of the address on the Jets and then have to answer questions about it the next day. Like, Aaron Rodgers just said this on McAfee. What do you say? So so I do believe that was part of the conversation. Now was that that backbreaker? No, I don't think so. It was a football decision. It was an age decision. It was a salary cap decision. And I think this other stuff, too, was involved. It's also a cultural decision. They're trying to change the culture. They're going from the Aaron Rodgers culture to the Aaron Glenn culture. And I don't think the two could coexist.
All right, so two-prong. I don't think the Jets are going to go into next year as Tyrod Taylor, the starting quarterback. So who's that going to be? And the other question is Aaron Rodgers done, or is he still want to play, and where will he play? I guess that's another prong.
That's we have a lot of prongs
Yeah.
here. So whenever you're talking about Aaron Rodgers, there's a lot of prongs. But I do think he wants to play. Now the trick is finding the right fit. That one team out there that is quote unquote just a quarterback away. Now, gosh, we heard that from the Jets 2 years ago, right? We just need one more missing piece, and Rodgers was going to be that. And of course, it didn't work out. So if there's a team out there. Tennessee has been mentioned, but they're more than one piece away. They might draft a quarterback anyway with the first pick. I could see a team like maybe Minnesota, which would be hilarious if he went to Minnesota. Depending on how J.J. McCarthy's coming back from that knee injury, that would be like following Brett Favre again, like retracing Favre's career. That would be hilarious. But I do think he's got the urge to play. I think deep in his heart he knows he could still play at a high level. And as for the Tyrod Taylor, I agree with you, Michael. He's quote unquote the leader in the clubhouse, but they've only played a few holes right now. There's a long way to go in this, and so they do have him on the roster. It's a good little insurance policy to have as your backup. They're going to go out and get a veteran. There's no question about it. I also think they could draft a quarterback as well. Probably not in the first round, but maybe in the second. So I think you're going to have two new faces in that quarterback room come training camp.
All right, final thing, Rich, and we're talking Rich Cimini, who covers the Jets for ESPN right here on the Michael Kay Show. Is the signing of Rodgers, or the trade, whatever you want to call it, is it the worst move in Jet history?
I had a feeling you were going to ask that question as we were getting ready to go on, because it's an interesting question. I always thought, you could put it certainly in the top three. I think you may have just triggered a story idea for me,
there you go.
The worst moves. There we go. As I'm talking through this, I always thought, considering what they gave up, and the contract, he did take a pay cut. To his credit, he took a big pay cut. but just the expectations, the hard knocks, the Super Bowl talk, and what was expected and what they got out of it. They got 5 wins out of it over 2 years. Obviously not all his fault. The Achilles injury was something you couldn't predict. But, yeah, I would say, what else would we – I always thought the Tim Tebow acquisition was one of the worst additions the Jets ever made because it just was a total circus for that one season, and it just did nothing but create a distraction. And ultimately, Mike Tannenbaum paid for his job, even though it was pretty much Woody Johnson's idea. I always ranked that up there pretty highly. But, I would put the Rodgers – they've had a lot of bad draft picks, but a draft pick – is unto itself. It doesn't affect, the culture of the team and the expectations and everything like that. But I would say, I would have to put it pretty much at the top of the list or very close to the top of the list.
Well, I'm looking forward to reading the story that I helped put little germ in your head. So that's good.
I don't know if we can do a co-byline, but I'll give you some sort of shout out. I
love it. Thank you, Rich. I appreciate it.
All right, Michael, take care.
All right, that's Rich Cimini. Interesting stuff. So, if it's not the top, it's 1A. I'll tell you that. Hiring Adam Gase wasn't too great either. Hiring Rich Kotite wasn't great. So, the Jets are such a bad franchise. There's a lot of competition. But the fact that Rodgers could be the most ridiculous and harmful signing, that tells you how bad it was. Aaron Boone's coming up in just a moment, maybe the offseason, but every season is Bigelow tea season. Now, I'm picky about what I drink, especially on days that I have a show. One of the first things I do each day is reach for a mug full of Bigelow tea. I love the different flavor options, and it's perfect for someone who makes his living behind a microphone. You want to know what keeps me going? Look no further than my cup of Bigelow tea next to me in the studio. So grab a mug full of your favorite Bigelow tea and tea proudly. Bigelow tea, the official hot tea of the New York Yankees.
Thanks for listening to the Michael K. Show podcast.
You know what? Check yourself.
Hear more from Michael K. weekdays at 1 on 880 ESPN.
Suck it up and like it.
The ESPN New York app and your smart speakers.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Fiscally responsible, financial geniuses, monetary magicians. These are things people say about drivers who switch their car insurance to Progressive and save hundreds. Visit Progressive.com to see if you could save. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary. Not available in all states or situations.
This episode is brought to you by Marvel Studios' Captain America: Brave New World. Starring Anthony Mackie as Captain America and Harrison Ford as President Ross. Don't miss the explosive return of Captain America as Sam Wilson uncovers a mysterious plot that threatens to destabilize the globe and confront an enemy that has the entire world seeing red. Enter a brave new world in IMAX and 3D this Friday. Get tickets now.
This is the Michael K. Show podcast.
I gotta get more K.
Listen live weekdays at 1 on 880 ESPN, the ESPN New York app, and your smart speaker.
Welcome back to the Michael K. Show. At 3 o'clock, we turn it over to Don, Hahn, and Rosenberg, and they'll give you a full 4 hours, so stay tuned for that. But first, we get a chance to talk to the manager of the New York Yankees. That is Aaron Boone. Today is a reporting day for pitchers and catchers, which is like a holiday for baseball fans, and I'm sure the manager feels the same way. We'll find out right now as he joins us live from his office in Tampa. Hi, Aaron. Is it a holiday for you with the pitchers and catchers reporting?
Hello, Michael. Yeah, it is an exciting day, no question. And I'm glad you and I were able to plan this out for today. But it's man, you get through the Super Bowl and it's like that just, I think baseball pops into sports fans and certainly baseball fans and certainly us that, where it's our livelihood. It's like that alarm bell, like, okay, here we go. It's the start of the.
Oh no, that is a bad sign. You never get the bing like that. So we lost Aaron Boone about 40 seconds into the interview, but we'll get him back shortly. I guess the cell service is not that good, or maybe he didn't pay his bill. Who knows? But we'll get him back in just a moment. We're talking with Aaron Boone, Yankee pitchers and catchers, reporting today. He did talk with the assembled media at 1 o'clock, and now he's giving us some time. Is he there, Ray? Oh, there he is. Hey,
yes.
Hey, Aaron, we lost you for a moment.
Sorry, where did I leave off?
You left off with what it means, exciting after football that, it's an alarm bell goes off now.
Yeah. It is that, it's like, man, here comes the start of the grind, the journey. The hope springs eternal, all those things that come with spring training and the excitement of what can be. And now we get to really get together as a group and hopefully start to go realize all our hopes and dreams as a team. But it is definitely always has been and rings true now at 51 years of age, an exciting day on the calendar.
All right, so this happens with baseball fans when football ends. Now, this is your job. This is your business. This is your livelihood. But one of the things you have left as a fan is football, and you are a true blue Eagles fan. What did that Super Bowl win mean for you, and did you ever think that they would be as dominant as they were against Kansas City?
I mean, how can you expect them to blow out the Chiefs? No, I don't think I expected that. I felt like they were going to win. In fact, I think I had to put a prediction out there, and I had them winning by 10. But because I just felt like, I've watched this team a lot this year. I've been to a number of games, and I just felt like, and I've watched them all my life. And I said to my son a few weeks ago, I said, I feel like this is the most complete Eagles team I've ever seen. And it certainly looks like that held true. So I think it was a surprise that it was a blowout like it was, but they're just such a talented, deep, really no-flawed team, and it certainly showed.
All right, so let's talk about your Yankees. One thing that people don't like, and I said at the beginning of the show that I am of the belief that, losing Juan Soto hurt, but this team is actually better than the one with Juan Soto, and the owner of the team said that a couple of weeks back as well. Do you believe this team is better despite losing a great player like Soto?
I hope so. I mean, I'm in the we'll see business, like in the now, like it's February. I look at our team, and I love the pivot we made when we did miss out on him, and obviously we went to great lengths to try and bring him back. Because, we understand the value and just how outstanding and impactful of a player that he is. But I'm also, I think the front office did a great job of quickly pivoting and putting in place a team that, as we sit here at least on paper, has a chance to hopefully meet or exceed what we were able to do last year. But time will tell. We get to go prove it. We got to the World Series, so it's hard to say right now in February we're better. We hope to be, and we'll probably be a little bit different than we were last year. But I think that's what the offseason brings sometimes. There's different ways of getting it done. There's different, whether it's attacking different strengths, adding to those, whether it's plugging holes on things that were weaknesses. In a lot of ways you go into the off season with a little bit of a blank slate to try and supplement, and hopefully we can go out and it proves to be better in the end, but we got a long ways to go.
All right, so you were 3 wins away from your ultimate goal, which was winning the World Series. You lost in 5 games to the Dodgers. Do you need, Luke Weaver was saying today that could be a motivating factor. The Yankees always have the motivation to try to win a World Series, but losing a World Series that way, Aaron, does that serve as an extra impetus to push your team forward?
I hope so. You're always looking for little things that can be, even if they're small, on the margin difference makers. And, the way we've talked about it, and I talked to the team after we lost, is hopefully for those of us that have come close and been in playoffs and, for me, my whole life, you're trying to get to the top of that mountain. And every time you come up a little bit short or you come up a lot short, hopefully it's a log on the fire is the way I put it, to keep that fire burning to reach the ultimate, the pinnacle, and that is to win a world championship. One thing I thought, one of the things I think is can be a difference maker for teams in all sports and a separator for a good team, great team, championship, whatever, is that next level of hunger. And I felt like that's something we had a lot last year. And whether that was coming off of not making the playoffs and just guys having just an edge and a really sharp focus even before spring training. I feel like it served us well and was a factor for us last year. But that's not a given. Even with real solid pros and really good people and like, it's not a given. I feel like you got to work for it. You got to fight for it. You got to have it. It's got to burn inside you. And I do think, differently than the year before where we didn't make the postseason, last year getting close and getting into the World Series and ultimately losing and not playing our best, I do think that can serve as a motivating factor. Will it? It remains to be seen. But it's our job to kind of pull that fire out of everyone, and hopefully it is something that can help in some small way propel us.
Would it be another log on the fire, Aaron? We're talking with Aaron Boone, the manager of the New York Yankees, as his team is reporting today, at least the pitchers and catchers. Is it another log on the fire that the Dodgers certainly, how do I put this? They were not gracious in their victory, and they said a couple of nasty things about the Yankees. I don't know how players react. I'm sure that you didn't take well to it, and the front office probably didn't like it. Were you surprised they went that route?
Yes, I did not like it, but I don't know if that bulletin board material stuff is necessary. Like, I feel like that fire's got to come from a different place. It's got to come from the internal, from each other, from how you push and motivate each other on a daily basis. Whether that does on some level, hard to say. I mean, I'm not going to lie and say I liked it, but and hopefully we're in a position to, be where they were. They're the champs, and the reality is they have the right to say whatever they want as the champion, and hopefully we're in that position this time next year, and like you said, hopefully we handle it with a little more class.
Do you believe, Aaron, that some of the stuff they said was true? I mean, do you think your team was lacking in fundamentals, that if when push came to shove that they were going to make mistakes? And if you do believe that there was any truth in it, is that something that you could work on this spring?
Absolutely work on. And I think there's little truths that when a game doesn't something doesn't happen, it becomes kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy. Like, you make an error, whether you're a great fielding team or you're not, and that costs you, and certainly when you're on the stage of the World Series, that narrative is going to blow and maybe even be exaggerated. As far as the focus on the fundamentals, like, it's always a focus, and that won't change this year. Like, sometimes your team and how you build it, again, varies, where you have different strengths and weaknesses every year. It's very hard to put together a perfect club every year, but we pay very close attention to the details. We work very hard on those things. And that won't change this year. Like, we will continue to lean into trying to get our players to be the best they can be in every facet of the game. And hopefully that in the end is good enough.
All right, not that it means anything coming from me, but when I look at your team, I think it's clearly the best team in the American League. But there are some questions that I have, and I want to ask you. You have come out and said that you're going to put Dominguez in left field. Now, we had on Brian Cashman on the Hot Stove Show on Yes. He said, well, that's not set in stone. He said, we'll see how it plays out in spring training. But I want to ask you, I think such a key for the Yankees this year is how Dominguez does. And he's obviously more comfortable in center field, and Bellinger has said he'd play left. And Dominguez really struggled in left field. So why go that route rather than have DeMartian be comfortable in center?
Well, in the end, we will. We feel like we have a really good runway. I think part of the reason he had some struggles, and again, at the end of the day, like, the struggles are a couple of balls in a place where he didn't have a ton of experience. And that's the one thing with Jason right now is not only in left field especially, but anywhere. Like, he doesn't have a ton of experience for as talented as he is and as excited as we are about him. And I certainly I feel like I've always been the high man on him. Like, I think he's going to be a great player.
You have.
He didn't have a lot of experience. And I feel like with the runway we have now in spring training, he's been down here for about the last 10 days, 2 weeks, working every day in left field. Louis Rojas is here working with him every day. and that'll continue, we'll get a good idea of what we're dealing with. And the hope is that he can. And part of that, for me, the calculus is why I hope that is the case is because I feel like I want to have potentially the best, defensive alignment and your best defensive players potentially at your premium positions. And part of the thought process is, yes, I know I can move Bellinger anywhere. And so take a night or a week or let's say Giancarlo's down and I'm DH and Judge. I have no issue moving Belly anywhere on the field. So I pop Belly over, and it just so happens that our other outfielder is Trent Grisham. And one of the big reasons he's on our team is because he's an elite defender in center field. So I don't want to get in the caught having to move Jason back and forth on where he's moving positions all the time, because I do want him to be comfortable. Now, if we get to the end of spring training or late in spring training, and I feel like it's not optimal for us or optimal for Jason, then we feel like we can always move him back to center and adjust how we have to. But I want to at least give it an opportunity to see what it looks like on a regular basis with Jason out and left.
Now, when we talked to Brian last week, he said that when you guys acquired Chisholm, it was to play second base, and that Torres refused to move over to third, and you made the decision, you know what, I'm going to keep him at second, move Jazz to third, and Jazz was very good at third. Number one, were you surprised that Glaber said he didn't want to move? And number two, is Jazz your second baseman this year?
Yeah, so I wouldn't say exact. Like when we got Jazz, I think a lot of people wanted him to come to play second. I did not want to move Glaber. I just felt like I didn't think moving him in the middle of the season to third base, in my opinion, would not have been successful. Okay. And the fact that Jazz was coming from having played mostly center field that year and had played kind of all over the diamond, at least in the middle of the field at different times in his career, when he was open to play third, I wanted to see how that looked. And right away, I mean, if you remember the Boston and then even the Philly series, it was like he's making plays over there that almost nobody makes. So it was kind of successful. Now, Glaber was definitely lukewarm to moving over there, but it was on the table. And my conversations with Glaber were, hey, I'm not doing it now, but it may come into play. And it ended up working out that obviously Jazz settled in at third, did a really good job over there. And then Glaber obviously, was just such a key player for us the final couple months of the season. So, it's more my initial thought was I wanted to see what we had with Jazz at third.
I'm a little nervous about third this year. You have three guys at this point, maybe even four if you count Vivas, battling for that spot. Are you confident, Aaron, that your third baseman is in that group?
I'm excited to see what we have. And I'm certainly hopeful. Whether it's one guy, getting the bulk, whether it's sharing the position, I certainly think we have a chance to be very solid over there. Obviously DJ is, a big talking point. And the reality for him is he just hasn't been healthy the last couple of years. He's had little things that have popped up. And I really feel like last spring, DJ was in a really good place and looking very much like, the great hitter he's been throughout his career, and obviously an excellent defender as well. And then he fouls the ball off his shin with like a week to go in spring training. It's like, oh man, another, bump in the road for him. And he never kind of got caught up last year and then had a couple nagging things that popped up. So for him, it's about health. And I'm not going to put anything past somebody with his track record, with his ability to hit, with his ability to play defense, that if he's healthy, whether it's an everyday role, whether it's sharing the position with pairing him with Oswaldo, who we feel like obviously is proven to be an outstanding utility player, another outstanding defender over at third. And I also feel like, especially against some right-handed pitching, has a chance to be a solid player for us, especially if you're talking down to the bottom of the lineup. So, and then Peraza is another guy out of options, Vivas, two guys that are very talented. So we'll see how it plays out. We'll let things unfold. And even when you you leave spring training, you're not always necessarily a complete team, and things have to play out, and you never know how the season unfolds. But there's tremendous opportunity for some talented people, and we'll just see how it shakes out here over the next 5 weeks and then beyond that.
We're talking with Yankee manager Aaron Boone here on the Michael Kay Show. Who's your leadoff hitter? And in a perfect world, Aaron, do you want one that's there every day, or would you be willing to mix and match against pitching?
Yeah, in a perfect world, sure. I think I'd want that one guy to grab it. But, that being said, especially as left-handed as we are, I don't know if it's necessarily the best route to go, against left-handed pitching with that left-handed hitter necessarily at the top. So it could be, a couple of guys. I'm hoping it kind of declares itself or hits us over the head, whether it's this spring or early in the season. I honestly do not know right now. I'm very open-minded to who it might be. The one thing is I love balance with the order, and we'll have that, albeit we don't have a ton of righties, and some of our even bench guys and depth guys are left-handed as well. So we'll see. I'm excited to see it kind of shake itself out, but I could see if you told me 5 or 6 or 7 names against right or left-handed pitching that they end up doing the bulk of the leadoff, that would not surprise me.
And final thing, I can't even believe it. When you were coming on, I said, let me make sure of this. This is the 8th year of you being Yankee manager.
I know.
It's gone by really, really fast. At least it has for me. I don't know for you. But it's also the final year of your contract. And you told the media earlier that you and Hal have spoken. Mm-hmm. Would you be comfortable, Aaron, going into the season without an extension? Because a lot of coaches and a lot of managers say, I don't want to be a lame duck. I need that extra year. How would you feel?
Yeah. Fine. Look, my my agent and I know Cash and Hal have spoken about it. So there's no other place I want to be. I want to be here with this team. I love working for this owner and this organization and the people I get to do it with, and most importantly, the coaches and the players. Like, I love grinding with this group and people that I've grown very close with now over the years as we try to get back to the top of the mountain. So this is where I want to be. I'm hopeful that something works out, but I'm also very comfortable with if it's not meant to be, if we don't work something out. The reality is I am under contract for this season. We have an outstanding team right now on paper that I'm really excited to lead and get to manage. And right now, my focus is on getting ready for the first day of camp and getting these guys ready to go for the long haul. And if the contract stuff works itself out, then I'll be thrilled. But if not, nothing changes as far as my approach and my focus.
Does it feel like 8 years, Aaron?
Sometimes, but man, I can't tell you how just there's moments certainly where it's tough in the course of a long season. That's the nature of the beast. That's the nature of professional sports and helping lead a franchise. But I love doing it here. I love the people I get to do it with. Like I said, I love the players that I've developed strong relationships with, that we've been through a lot of highs and lows together. And so I'm as rejuvenated and as excited as ever to go, jump into the championship season, and the journey begins in earnest tomorrow.
Good stuff, Aaron. I thank you for joining us as always, and good luck this year.
Thanks, Michael. Look forward to seeing you, bud.
All right, be good. That is Aaron Boone starting his 8th season at the Yankee helm. Wow, it seems like yesterday he just got the job. 1-800-919-3776. So you heard what he spoke about. He hopes that if the Yankees win a championship, that they handle it with a little more class than the Dodgers did. He's willing to manage just on a 1-year deal. He's contracted, but they have had talks about an extension. Third base is up for grabs. Looks like DJ would be in the lead for that. Left field, he's going to start out with Dominguez there, but he's willing to change because he has some runway over spring training to see if it's more comfortable for him in center field. Jazz Chisholm is the second baseman. So there's a lot of stuff to do, and the Yankees start out looking pretty good on paper, as he said. But we already heard about injuries. Jake Cousins might not be ready for opening day with a little bit of an issue. Same thing with Clayton Beeter. He's a little bit far behind in terms of a build-up as well with a shoulder issue, which he dealt with last year as well. So it never goes totally smoothly. And, you have to hope that Garrett Cole is healthy from the beginning of the year. He had some barking in his arm last year in spring training, missed the first half of the year, but the Yankees still got off to a great start because of Louis Seal. So there's a lot of stuff out there. Yankees have to feel good about things. A little bit later on in the week, probably on Friday, we're going to have Carlos Mendoza, the Met manager, on with us as well. So we will cover baseball like a glove. We have the ESPN personnel at our disposal all around spring training camps. So this is the place to be. We'll take your phone calls coming up in just a moment right here on the Michael K. Show. It's K and U on 880 ESPN.
If you wear glasses, you know how hard it is to find the perfect pair. But step into a Warby Parker store and you'll see it doesn't have to be. Not only will you find a great selection of frames, you'll also meet helpful advisors and friendly optometrists. Yep, many Warby Parker locations also offer eye exams. So the next time you need glasses, sunglasses, contact lenses, or a new prescription, you know where to look. To find a Warby Parker store near you or to book an eye exam, head over to warbyparker.com/retail.
Get in the zone, AutoZone. Welcome to AutoZone. What are you working on today?
I think my battery's dead.
With free battery testing and charging, we can help you get back on the road.
Get in the zone, AutoZone. So what if I need a new one?
We have the right Duralast battery for you, only at AutoZone.
Get in the zone, AutoZone. And what about my old battery?
We can recycle it right here at America's #1 battery destination.
Get in the zone, AutoZone.
Restrictions apply.
As the number and severity of third-party breaches continue to rise, companies are increasingly vigilant, not just about how they handle their own data, but how their vendors do as well. For security and compliance leaders, this means more security reviews are coming across your desk every day, and valuable time is being wasted on manual security reviews. With Vanta Questionnaire Automation, security and compliance teams can complete security reviews up to 5 times faster, giving you time back to focus on running your security and compliance programs. Over 8,000 global companies like ZoomInfo, Smart Recruiters, and Noibu use Vanta to save time on security reviews. Visit vanta.com/podcast to learn more about questionnaire automation. That's VANTA.com/podcast.
Thanks for listening to the Michael K. Show podcast.
He's been here a long time, and he's going to be here even longer.
Catch the show on demand whenever you want. Just subscribe to us wherever you get your podcasts.
Welcome back to the show. Hey, Daniel Tosh has added a second show at the Beacon Theater on Friday, April 4th, and ESPN New York has your chance to score tickets on the ESPN New York app. Just find the contest tile and submit your entry. It's brought to you by Live Nation. Tickets go on sale this Friday at 10 a.m. at Ticketmaster.com. Let's take some phone calls when you become the host with me, 1-800-919-3776. And let's go to Tyler in Georgia. What's up, Tyler?
Hey, Michael. How you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good. Quick comment on the Yankees. I don't know if you heard anything, but why don't they go after Nolan Arenado? He's 33, going to be 34 this year. I think he'd be great in the corner. Maybe a little bit of resurgence back in this bat.
You know what, Tyler? I agree with you. I've been pushing for that, but it's one of two things, okay? And the Yankees have not said anything publicly. Number one, which was probably the easiest one, they don't want him. They think he's on the decline, and maybe they got spooked by the Josh Donaldson thing. And number two, maybe they do want him, and they want the Cardinals to assume more of the money. He has 3 years left on his deal. I think it's such an easy play. You have the Cardinals accept Marcus Stroman in a deal, so that shaves $18 million off the contract. Maybe they eat a little bit more in years 2 and 3. And you could make the deal. But it's either one of those two things. And I've heard from several people that they're not all that high on him. Now, I don't know if that's just posturing because they want the Cardinals to eat a lot of money. The Cardinals have come out and said they don't want to start the season with Arenado at third base. Arenado is a 10-time Gold Glove winner. That's how good he is at third base. Now, has he lost a little bit? Has he lost a step? Yes. But he's only 1 year older, than Aaron Judge. And I think he's vastly better than anybody that is battling for third base for the Yankees. So it's one of those two things. Either they don't want him or they're waiting for the price to come down. Let's go to Bob in Florida. Bob.
Hello, Michael. How are you?
How you doing?
Good. You're a good Yankee announcer. I love when you say, let me do a question. So how do you see the Yankee season playing out with Al Soto? Because Soto gave Judge for protection. So I know the Yankees showed up the defense and the pitching, but how do you see the offense playing with Al Soto? Is it just going to mark Judge and let someone else beat you? How's that going to affect the Yankees?
Well, Judge hit 62 home runs when Soto wasn't on the team, so I'm not really worried about Judge. I think Judge provided more protection for Soto than vice versa, since Soto was hitting in front of Judge. So maybe there'll be fewer people on base, which might affect his RBI total. But remember, Judge didn't have the protection that Soto had and still had a magical year and won an MVP. So I don't think that's going to be an issue at all. I don't. 1-800-919-3776. Let's go to Richard in Manhattan. Richard.
Michael, the Yankees got off to a start last year that was unbelievable. They opened up the season Easter week, winning 4 games in Houston, and 2 of those on comebacks. Unbelievable. Their first 50 games, they were 35-15. Out of the 50 starts, each of the 5 pitchers started 10 games. The 5 pitchers, Rodon, Stroman, Schmidt, Cortez, and Heel, average 6 innings a start, 2 runs per game. There is no way they're going to be able to match that. They did that 35-15 without 2 of their 3 best players contributing nothing. Cole and Judge, nothing. Only Soto was contributing out of the 3 best players. I don't see how the Yankees can do that this year is starting the season. I mean, it's all on the pitching, and I can't see how we can improve on what we did last year. So, I'm a pragmatist. I hope they have some sort of cushion when they start the season because, they sort of tail at the end. So let's see what happens.
Maybe it could go the other way, Richard. I mean, you're taking the negative view. Yeah, they got off to a 35-15 start. They looked unbelievable. But then there was a market correction where they were awful for about 36 games. They were just awful. So maybe they just play steady baseball and they win their 95 games and go into the postseason. So is it likely for them to start off 35-15 again? No, it's not. But as you said, they start off 35-15 without Cole, in April without Judge hitting like Judge. Because if Judge had just a normal April, he probably would have flirted with breaking his home run record. That's how great he was for the remainder of the year. So you want to look at it negative that they can't start off that way? That's fair. But do you think that they're going to have that 36, 40-game stretch where I think they were playing to a pace of the worst team in baseball? Is that sustainable? No. So it was a market correction. All they have to do is win 95 games, 94 games, whichever way they do it. And that's going to win the American League East and probably be the best record in the American League. Doesn't matter how they get it. Doesn't matter how they compile it. Doesn't matter when they get it. Doesn't matter if they do it in April and May or if they do it in August and September. So Richard chooses to, accentuate the negative, say they can't get off to that start. And, if you had a bet that way, you'd bet that they're not going to get off to that start again. But then if you want to bet, are they going to have a 40-game stretch that will be among the worst in baseball? The way to bet would be no. And would you bet that, Judge would get off to another horrific start? Would you bet that Garrett Cole wouldn't pitch in the first half of the season? That's why it's funny. We talk in broad strokes, in talk radio and even in the newspapers or on websites. Can't make predictions with any certitude. Anybody makes a prediction with certitude as if there's no way they could be wrong. I mean, they're kidding themselves. So whose leg is going to get broken? Whose UCL is going to tear? You have no idea. You have absolutely no idea. That's why they play the games. Hey, where are my co-hosts? 1-800-919-3776. Let's go to Ira in Staten Island. Ira.
Hey, Michael, how are you? Good lineup before with Rich and Sal and the coach, manager.
It's funny. I'll leave it to Rich to write the article, but and I understand why the Jets went after Rodgers. But to me, you look at the history of the franchise, that was definitely the biggest boom or bust roll of the dice that they did. Unfortunately, it didn't work out, and I think it was very predictable that the new regime was going to go in a different direction. And listen, you know all the names out there. I'm sure they'll draft a quarterback. Quite frankly, I have no problem with either Fields or Cousins and Taylor. Let a rookie sit and let Aaron Glenn start putting the pieces together to get this franchise back on track.
Would you be okay with Cousins?
Absolutely. You get him on a cheap 1-year deal, maybe 2-year deal. I got no problem with him and let him and Taylor. I mean, I'm sure Cousins would beat Taylor out, you would think, but I think it would be a good thing, and I think he'd be a team guy. He didn't want to be in New York about 5-10 years ago, but I think this time he'll come back league minimum, and I think he'll be a good soldier.
And also, if you think about it, his cousin, no pun intended, plays for the Yankees, so he'd have somebody near and dear to him in New York. Jake Cousins is his cousin. And the Jets, if the Falcons have to pay his salary this year. So the Jets would get him for a minimum of like $1.1 million because they're going to be under a cap hit with Rodgers. When Rodgers is released, whether they do it on June 1st or right now, they could spread it out over 2 years, or they could take the cap hit of about $45 million this year. It's funny. I mentioned yesterday that the Rodgers acquisition was one of the worst things that ever happened to the Jets. It was an absolute abomination. And a couple of people on social media came back at me and said, at the time when people called in and said they didn't want him, you and Don said, well, you know what, of course you want him. And I stand by that. Just because I said you've got to take the chance doesn't mean that I can't evaluate that chance. I think Ira just put it very well. It was boom or bust, and it turned into a real-time bust. But when they made the move, I was all in. Who was going to be your quarterback? I mean, somebody has to play quarterback. So you go for a guy who, playing with a broken finger, put together a really good final season in Green Bay. But at that time, I also said that they were not getting an MVP Rodgers. He was removed from that. He was going to be a different player. And he turned out to be that. Now, no one could have predicted. So all those that said they didn't want him, you could all play yourself as really smart right now, but there's no way that you thought for a moment that he was going to tear his Achilles on the fourth part of the year. So the first season was a wash. And what made the first season even worse than losing him to an injury was he never shut up. And that constant presence on Pat McAfee made him a distraction, although he was not playing. So that meant Robert Saleh had to answer questions constantly about this guy. And you brought in the players that he wanted. He helped shape the team. And the offensive coordinator, he helped shape the team. So at the time, I said it was worth the gamble. And it was. But there were warning signs that it could go wrong, and boy, did it go wrong. But none of the warning signs ever said, oh, yeah, on the fourth play of the game, on the first game of the year against Buffalo on 9/11, that he was going to tear his Achilles. Nobody thought that. Nobody thought that. Nobody could have thought that. So you could all make yourself out to be really smart right now, but really you're joking around. You got 20/20 hindsight. I said there could be problems, and now that it's said and done, and I also said at the beginning, if they don't win a Super Bowl, you could all, if you want to check back in the tapes or the podcast, if they didn't win a Super Bowl, it was a failure. Not only did they not win a Super Bowl, they didn't make the playoffs. They did not make the playoffs, and when he played the whole year, they won 5 games. So it was an epic fail. And to tell you how much of a distraction the McAfee stuff was, when Aaron Glenn was speaking with him, according to Diana Rossini, The Athletic, they said, you got to stop the McAfee stuff because they're trying to change the culture. They don't want to have Aaron Glenn have to talk every Tuesday or Wednesday after Rodgers was on with McAfee about what he said on McAfee. You want one voice. And Aaron Glenn is an acolyte of Bill Parcells. And Bill Parcells did not want a celebrity quarterback. He wanted to be the one voice out of the organization. And when you have a guy who's playing to such a big audience with Pat McAfee, you're not the one voice. Aaron Rodgers is the voice. He didn't want it. And also you have to send all of the workouts. which that everybody jumped me when I said it. Missing that mandatory workout was a big deal. It showed that I'm in charge. Robert Saleh's not. I'm bigger than every other player. That's coming to light now, everybody. You all argue with me about that. But the bottom line is he missed a 3-day mandatory camp so he could start his vacation in Egypt 3 days early. It was ridiculous. It made no sense when he did it, and it put Robert Saleh in a bad situation, and I believe eventually led to him getting fired. The winning or the lack of winning didn't help him either. 1-800-919-3776. It's the K-Show. We roll till 3 o'clock. At that time, it'll be Don, Hahn, and Rosenberg. I'm sure they'll have a lot to say about what Rossini reported as well. The K-Show right here on 880 ESPN.
Look around. You can find cars like these on AutoTrader, like that car riding your tail. Or if you're tailgating right now, all those cars doubling as kitchens and living rooms are on AutoTrader too. Are you working out and listening to this ad at the same time? Well, multitasking pro, cars like the ones in the gym parking lot are for sale on AutoTrader. New cars, used cars, electric cars, maybe even flying cars. Okay, no flying cars, but as soon as they get invented, they'll be on AutoTrader. Just you wait. AutoTrader.
This episode is brought to you by Indeed. When your computer breaks, you don't wait for it to magically start working again. You fix the problem. So why wait to hire the people your company desperately needs? Use Indeed's sponsored jobs to hire top talent fast. And even better, you only pay for results. There's no need to wait. Speed up your hiring with a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply.
You know what's smart? Enjoying a fresh gourmet meal at home that you didn't have to cook. Meet Factor, your loophole in the laws of mealtime. Chef-crafted meals delivered with a tap, ready in just 2 minutes. You know what's even smarter? Treating yourself without cheating your goals. Factor is dietitian approved, chef prepared, and you plated. Pretty smart, huh? Refresh your routine and eat smart with Factor. Learn more at factormeals.com.
Thanks for listening to the Michael K. Show podcast.
He's been here a long time, and he's going to be here even longer.
Catch the show on demand whenever you want. Just subscribe to us wherever you get your podcasts.
All right, so how's it going in Dallas after the ridiculous trade of Luka? Yesterday, they played Sacramento and lost. They were ejecting people from the arena that were chanting "Fire Nico Harrison," the GM who made the deal. The governor of the team came out and, pretty much said that Luka did not have the same dedication to win that other Maverick greats have. I mean, this is a new governor for him to say that. Then the former majority owner and now a minority owner, Mark Cuban, allegedly told the fans to bleep off because they were all booing. And Anthony Davis in the previous game hurt himself, was probably going to be out about a month because Anthony Davis always gets hurt. So how's it working out in Dallas? Imagine people were chanting "Fire Nico" and they were throwing them out of the American Airlines Arena. I don't get it. I mean, you're not allowed to say that? Why? They don't like the deal that the GM made, so they're saying fire him. I mean, did the Yankees throw out people when they actually had a day where people in the upper deck were chanting "Fire Cashman"? Did they get thrown out of the ballpark? I mean, we're talking about free speech. Why can't they say that? How else are they going to show their displeasure? The other way they could show their displeasure is not go to games. You want them to do that? If you throw these people out for saying "Fire Nico," I hope you gave them their money back, because it was a bad move. It's gonna turn out to really age poorly, because I simply don't think that the Mavericks are good enough to win a championship. And then the Lakers continue to win. And on top of that, to make the Mavericks look even worse, Dirk Nowitzki went to L.A. to see Luka Doncic's first game there. And that's an all-time Maverick great. So the fact that he did that, that's his subtle, or maybe not so subtle, little statement to the Mavericks that I don't like the deal you made. 1-800-919-3776. Let's go to Josh in Albany. Josh.
Hey, Michael, what's going on, man? Calling from the Capitol.
I love it.
Every day, man.
Thank you, Josh. What's up, my friend?
Nothing much. I just want to make a quick comment about Boone. I love Boone. And, I hope he gets that extension this year before the season starts. So that's not on his mind. And also, I think it's funny and great that he's calling Bellinger Belly already. So just wanted to point that out.
You know what, Josh? I thought the same thing because that's Yankee baseball going back to Girardi. Everybody added a Y. So it's not Bellinger, it's Belly. And he does it all the time. And I've even brought it up to him, and he laughs. But they don't call people by their name. They don't call him Cody. They don't call him Bellinger. It's Belly. That's just the way it is. I think he has called Jazz. Rizzo was Riz. Judge is Judgy. Yeah, I don't know if it's a Yankee thing or a sports thing, just adding the Y at the end. Let's go to John in New Jersey. Johnny.
Mike, how you doing?
Good. How you doing, John?
Good. Mike, what's the Yankees' answer at third base this year?
I don't know.
I'm not feeling too confident right now. I'd rather see Jazz play second because that's his natural position. But they can't go Cabrera and DJ at third all year. That's just not going to work.
Well, John, if you heard my interview with Boone, that seems to be the plan at the start. Obviously they could pivot. I guess they could acquire somebody later. It looks like they're going to play Jazz Chisholm at second, so I don't think that's a worry. Third base right now is either DJ LeMahieu, Oswaldo Cabrera, Oswald Peraza, or Yorvi Vivas. That's it. I don't feel great about it. On a team that I think is the best team in the American League, that's the big hole on the team. That and the fact they really don't have a perfect prototypical leadoff hitter. That's it. But I guess they're banking on DJ LeMahieu being healthy, but you're banking on something that hasn't happened in 3 years. And, he's getting up there in age, so even if he's healthy, is it going to be the same guy? Is it going to be the same guy? Mr. Ray in Connecticut, what's up, my friend?
Mr. K, how are you today, sir?
Oh, all good. How about you?
I'm doing well, thank you. Just wanted to make a couple points about the Yanks.
Go for it.
The main concern, you kind of touched on it. I really feel is so crucial for the Martian to have success, at least just a stepping stone closer to success towards his long term. My main concern about him is having him in left. I really would have loved to have seen him in center field in his natural position so he can concentrate on hitting more. We saw what happened in the past when the Yanks have moved rookies or second-year guys out of positions and out of their comfort zone. Andujar comes to mind. Glaber, when they, even though they thought he was going to be a shortstop, he felt more comfortable in second. And Clint Frazier as well. So I really would strongly consider them moving Belly to left field, whose veteran presence can handle the position, I feel, much better than a young kid. For third base, LeMahieu, he needs to step up. I understand he is getting older, and we are banking on him being healthy. But at least if he could give us that production in his 2022 campaign that I saw was about 261 with about 160 hits, I feel maybe a little uptick from that. I think is
Mr. Ray,
feasible, even though I do like
if they get that
and
from
their
him,
energy.
my friend, they will throw an absolute party. They throw a parade if he hit 250 and fielded his position because he's a good defender. And I am of belief, and I said this to Boone, so I'm not hiding behind a microphone. They should have Dominguez in center. He was so bad in left last year that they could not give him the postseason spot. That's why they went with Verdugo. He was so bad in left. So now you're going to tell me that he's suddenly going to find religion and be a good left fielder. Let him be comfortable in center field. Bellinger is willing to play left. I understand what Boone was saying, resting people. You deal with that as it happens. Bellinger's a better center fielder than Dominguez. But Dominguez is more comfortable in center, and he's not comfortable in left. Bellinger doesn't care where he plays. Left, center, first. Doesn't matter. Right field. They'll play him all around. I think that, and Boone left himself some wiggle room where, I've got some runway is the way he said it. And, I guess things could change in the 5 or 6 weeks of spring training. We shall see. Another great show. They're going to send this one to the Marconi people. That's how good it was. And now you want more greatness? Well, you stay tuned because Don Hahn and Rosenberg take over the airwaves in about 4 minutes. In the words of Billy Joel, life is a series of hellos and goodbyes. I'm afraid it's time for a goodbye again. See you, everybody. Hey, when the game tips off, the NBA action is just beginning on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Because FanDuel is your home for NBA live betting. So even if you miss the first few minutes of the game or want to bet on a fourth quarter comeback, you can make your picks from the first whistle until the final buzzer. Plus, you can combine your live bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. However you want to play, now's the perfect time to join. New FanDuel customers get started with $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Just visit FanDuel.com/K to join today. That's FanDuel.com/K for your shot at $150 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, official sports betting partner of the NBA. 21 plus and physically present in New York. First online real money wager only. $5 first deposit required. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets, which expire 7 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. For help with a gambling problem, call 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. That's 467-369.
Thanks for listening to the Michael K. Show podcast.
You know what? Check yourself.
Hear more from Michael K. weekdays at 1 on 880 ESPN.
Suck it up and like it.
The ESPN New York app and your smart speakers.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Fiscally responsible, financial geniuses, monetary magicians. These are things people say about drivers who switch their car insurance to Progressive and save hundreds. Visit Progressive.com to see if you could save. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary. Not available in all states or situations.